Hello everybody, this is Gregory with How I Lost Over 100 Pounds and I've kept it off for 30 plus years, where there should be no hesitancy in your weight loss and maintenance. Today we're going to talk about a telltale sign that you might have a disordered relationship with food, and that's getting 2 servings of desserts. Now, before we begin, if you need help with weight loss, contact me through the Clarity FM link found here in the episode notes. Also check out my website, which has hundreds of articles and recipes, my 2 books, which you can find on Amazon, and lastly, if you appreciate my content, there is a link for PayPal. Now, there is a sugar addiction in America. We know this. We know sugar is highly addictive. Some studies would suggest it's even more addictive than heroin. And they surreptitiously or secretly put sugar in a lot of items. We have, I think, a 2 or 3 part series here. Maybe I'll put an episode, a banner, in for sugar-laden foods that you don't think have sugar in them. So, for example, like condiments tend to have a lot of sugar. Flavored yogurts have a lot of sugar, even more than sometimes than sodas do. And there's other examples of things that have a lot of sugar. And we talked about it on the Bliss Point kind of deception, how sugar is one of the 3 things that food producers put in our food to make it addictive, along with salt and fat. And so when you can put sugar in enough things, we love it. It elicits a response. So we need to be aware of this, and we need to be aware that if you look at sugar consumption in America, it is quintupled like in 30 years. And part of it is food producers are putting more sugar in food. And if you were to compare like some desserts that we used to eat 50 years ago to now, they're infinitely more sweet. You look at the kind of the artificial sweeteners that are out there as well that are super sweet, that elicit that sweet kind of response that we want more and more and more. You can go to Europe. We have that episode on why Europeans are not fat that I recorded outside of Florence, Italy. And if you go to Europe, for example, their desserts, even their candy bars, whether it be Kinder or Cadbury, Nestle, they're made differently over there, and they don't have as much sweet. And if you eat their desserts too, their desserts have less sugar. But here in America, I mean, it's sugar galore, and it's a major problem. So on one level, it's like we almost can't handle it. It's not our fault because sugar is addictive. But on another level, look, we are responsible for everything we put in our mouth and everything that comes out of our mouth. And so we need to be vigilant of the sugar pushing, so to speak, like the drug pushing. We have to be cognizant of what's going on around us and how we're being manipulated, like with food porn, for example, and try to do a better job of limiting our sweets. And I mentioned maybe 4 or 5 episodes ago about one way you can really charge up or galvanize your weight loss and weight maintenance is eliminate desserts, because the desserts are just, along with sodas and alcohol, just empty calories. You're getting no nutrition when you're eating a gigantic slice of white cake or 3 scoops of ice cream. I mean, you might get some calcium, vitamin D from the dairy, but as a whole, they're just pretty much empty calories. But I would say like a sign, and this is kind of a corollary to that episode, a sign that you probably have a disordered relationship with food is 2 servings of desserts. Now, why do I say that? I have an episode where I talk about like you shouldn't deprive yourself of food, and there's no such thing as a good food and a bad food. We don't want to connect an emotion to a food. There's going to be foods that you should eat more often. This is what you can tell kids, right? There's foods you should eat more often and foods that you should eat less often. And cake, white cake, for example, is a food that we shouldn't eat that often. But I'm not of the mindset that you should completely deprive yourself of something unless you have an autoimmune or bodily response, a pernicious bodily response to it. So if you have celiac disease for gluten, for example, or you're really lactose intolerant. But if you're not one of those people, I don't think you should live a life, because it's hard to live a life where I'm never going to eat bread, I'm never going to eat cake, I'm never going to eat muffins. It's just going to overall, in my opinion, jeopardize your weight maintenance. And you can employ that, and we have an episode here like what's the difference of strategies between weight loss and weight maintenance. And certainly with weight loss, you can say I'm not going to eat this until I get my weight down. But for that the weight loss success to succeed, you're going to have to accommodate some things, and you're going to have to moderate that I'm not ... That being said, of course, I'm not telling you to eat white cake every day. And there's going to be times you're at a party, or maybe it's a celebration, or you're just at home, and there is a sweet there. Maybe you made brownies or an ice cream or whatever. And look, when it comes to weight maintenance, it's okay to have a serving, but all you need is 1 serving. You only need 1. And really, if you look at the European equivalent, what a serving is to an American or Texas size where I live, the serving can be a lot smaller than we think 1 serving should be. But we overindulge because of really 2 reasons. Sugar is so addictive and tastes good, let's be honest, tastes good. And the other thing is, we're not really thinking, you know what, I don't need this second thing. It's just like with drugs and a lot of things. The first bite's always the best, and every subsequent bite isn't as good. And when you get to finishing a dessert, it's so good, it's so sweet, you want more. But that's at that point where you need to step back and be like, I already had the sweet, I don't need more sweets. If anything, I can pack up this sweet and take it home, or freeze it if you're at your house and eat it in a couple of days, so you can still have sweets here and there. But if you're like overindulging and eating 2 or 3 sweets, then it shows that you do have some sort of disordered relationship with food, because there's really no reason to be eating 2 or 3 servings of a dessert. And like, you can apply this to chips, you can apply this to queso, because you've already had that to kind of satisfy your sweet tooth. And so when you're overindulging in it, then at that point it becomes, why am I eating this, right? Am I eating it to numb the pain? Am I eating it because I'm stressed? Am I eating it for whatever thing? And normally by that point, second, third serving, you're not using the frontal lobe, you're using the diencephalon brainstem, kind of the primordial rat part of our brain, where it's just instincts, emotions, instincts, and so forth. So I would tell you, like, if you are one of those who can't pass up second, third servings, then I would tell you, like I say in a lot of these videos, do the deep work. You got to figure out why you have a disordered relationship with food, because most fat people do, whether or not you lost your weight and you're momentarily not fat, or just you've always been fat. We do have a disordered relationship with food, and you got to do the deep work to disassociate whatever trauma that occurred to you and how you connect it to food. Because if not, even if you do a crash diet, or you get in shape to do a marathon, eventually you're going to have this specter that's always chasing you, this disordered eating. And it's always going to be kind of a calorie in, calorie out kind of thing, like I did for 10, 15 years of my life, which I talk about over at Reflections of a Weight Loss Warrior, that playlist. And you don't want that. It's just quicker and easier if you get to the root source of your disordered eating and sever that tie and fix it. And at that point, you can have a regular relationship with food. You don't connect it to anything aside from just bodily nurturance, and that's the whole job of food, is just to give you calories so your body keeps going. And so you won't be as tempted to eat a dessert every day, for example, or even if you're getting a dessert here and there, to get that second or third serving, because you really don't need that serving. At that point, you're just feeding some other part of your body that you really don't need, and then later on you're going to regret it, and you're going to have the shame and all these things. So the best thing to do is just don't go down that road and have a normal relationship with food. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.